If you will it, it is no dream. But if you don't will it, a dream it is, and a dream it will remain. Those are some of Theodore Herzl's most famous words that in my mind really are prophetic. And I see Herzl in many ways as a modern day prophet who had a vision of a Jewish state sovereign for the Jewish people 50 years before it came to fruition. And those words, if you will it, really motivated many, many people. And there's so many miraculous stories of how Israel, almost on the verge, did not become a country. But because of the actions of unspoken heroes, Israel became a reality. 75 years later, we all can really marvel at Israel, but we also still have dreams. And we can dare to be like Herzl and relax and sort of vision our dreams and ask ourselves, what would it take for our dreams to come true? And what would it take for us to compromise and modify our dreams, knowing that sometimes they're in conflict with each other? Having the power of the pulpit, I'm going to share my dream and really do, though, encourage you to think of what yours is. And if you want to share them with each other, share them with me, please do so. My dream is that, like the United States, that Israel will establish a constitution. I think doing so will guarantee that Israel remains a Jewish state into the 21st and, God willing, the 22nd century and beyond. As I mentioned earlier, the state of Israel, like any country, is a human enterprise and will be inherently flawed. And our dreams are supposed to address these flaws, to make us ask, what is possible? Is it possible to take the impossible and make it possible? But I also said that we must begin with gratitude. Before we can talk about flaws, we need to make sure that we do so with humility, that already so much has been accomplished. We need to understand what Israel has been through and how now Israel is a fully integrated country into the community of nations. And that we could all take moments to think about all of its achievements in high tech, in medicine, and agriculture, and just how Israel is really a beautiful country to go and to visit and to really connect with spiritually and physically. So we take a moment to really hold on to that gratitude. I mentioned on Shavuot night that I was in the middle of Isabel Kirshner's new book, The Land of Hope and Fear. If you have read the New York Times, I know some people have a love-hate relationship, I guess, with the New York's paper of record. Isabel Kirshner is the longtime correspondent to Israel. And she has written things that, as a journalist, trying as much as she can to be straight down the middle. Some say she's been influenced by editors. I don't need to get there. But if you go a little bit into her biography, which I didn't know so much about, she was born in Manchester, England, and grew up there. And she made Aliyah. So she would say sort of be one of us. She is part of the state of Israel and is a citizen, a Jewish citizen of the state of Israel. Her children were born in Israel. Her children served in the army. And so as she's reporting on Israel, trying, as all journalists do, to have an unbiased lens, we also need to know, and if we want to argue with her, that she's being biased, that she really does live in this country and loves it and wants to present Israel in a way that we can see its realities and address her realities and alter our dreams and expectations for the country. And the way that she does the book is that she really shows us how there is more than one Israel, how diverse Israel is. The population is close to 9 million, and in many ways, not as diverse as New York City, but if you think about our sister city, large city just next to us, how diverse that small area of land is, we can just get a little bit of a picture of what Israel is. You have Jews born from the former Soviet Union. You have people of Ethiopian descent, multiple generations of all of these. You have Haredim. You have people who love pork. You have people who identify as Mizrahi, from the Eastern countries, and those as Ashkenazi. And obviously, we have all of the socioeconomic levels that any country would have. And 20% of the country is Arab. It's Palestinian Arab is the word that they like to use. And they are citizens of that country, of our country, holding Israeli passports. It's easy to say unified. E pluribus unum, as we like to say in the United States. Out of many, there is one. But to achieve that takes a lot of work and a lot of compromise, and I would say a lot of maintenance. The United States is still working on e pluribus unum, and Israel needs to continue to work on that as well. But think about in Israel, if 20% of the first graders in Israel right now are Haredi, and another 20% are Palestinian Arab, then that makes 40% that are not in the mainstream, quote unquote. And Israel needs to integrate them into the society if they are going to thrive. And we need to recognize that we also need to integrate the people from the former Soviet Union that might not be halachically Jewish, and how we bring them into the fold. And yes, there is racism in Israel. There are dark-skinned Ethiopians who have disturbingly similar experiences to what African Americans here have in the United States. Last year was the 125th anniversary of the Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland. And people went along the Rhine River there and had that same kind of dreamy look that Herzl had. And they were all invited to have a dream. So as I said, my dream is of a constitution that, yes, enshrines Israel's Jewish character. If you read the Declaration of Independence of Israel, some of this will not be new, but to have it in a constitution where really it is not easy to change, you won't have the kind of problems that we have right now in Israel, where they're still trying to figure out what is in the power to change, what is not. If it was in the Constitution, it would be much easier. And so that Constitution would say that, yes, Israel is going to have a Jewish character, follow the Jewish calendar. Hebrew will be the national language, and the law of return will be maintained, and the government will support Jewish culture. But simultaneously, the rights of all minorities will be protected, and there will be a way to encourage these non-Jewish minorities to engage in their own culture. If they are happy in their culture, and if they can see themselves as part of the fabric of Israel, they will be loyal to Israel. We know from the United States, the salad bowl mentality, not melting pot, is really what makes America thrive. It's when we can embrace our own traditions, but also celebrate the presence of people unlike us that allows us to cooperate. And yes, we'll have to figure out how to be pluralistic when it comes to Judaism and recognize that Judaism has multiple forms. I'll discuss a little bit more about that next week. But if 20% of the country is Haredi, we can't just bash them and say they are not like us. If Haredi really want to be gender separated, you can still interact with a woman online. So you can be in another room and be in an area where at least physically men and women are not interacting. It's recognizing that Haredim have different needs, because if we just reject them, they'll reject the entire enterprise. And then finally, that constitution will enshrine, as long as it's needed, that everyone will go into the defense force. But if the defense force is not needed or there's too many, that everybody will serve national service. It has been proven that when 18-year-olds go to the army, go to national service, it is actually Israel's great equalizer. It is when people of different identities, who often live miles apart, not even miles apart, can really learn to connect with one another. You could say there's no atheists in foxholes. Well, hopefully there's no discrimination and hatred in foxholes as well, when you're relying on the person next to you to save your life and you have to save their life. Much more connection that goes on. And hopefully when they come out of that experience, the now 20-year-olds will be loyal Israelis, loyal at embracing all citizens and residents. We have to accept or think about, what about the Palestinians in the West Bank? Not so easy for a constitution to handle. If we're allowed to dream, my dream is that the Arab world, we're talking about Saudi Arabia with all this money, will start to invest in the West Bank and to really allow the Palestinians there to thrive. And Israel will have to recognize there needs to be room for a Palestinian state. Because if they don't, then the troubles, as we could even call what's going on right now, similar to the troubles of Northern Ireland of many decades ago, could just continue. There has to be a solution. Yes, what I have is a dream. And who knows how long it will take to fulfill that dream. Hopefully not another 75 years. But again, we go to gratitude and we go to ask ourselves, how does the impossible become possible? And for me, it's encapsulated in many Talmudic stories, but just one story that comes to light is that there's a story of two rabbis who ask each other, when will the Messiah come? And someone says, go ask Elijah. Where is Elijah? He is at the city gate, sort of separated amongst all of the lepers, really the outside margins of society. All the lepers have skin lesions and they have bandages on them that need to get changed on a daily basis. All the lepers often do is they take all of the bandages off at once and then start putting on the new ones. Elijah is different. Elijah takes off just one bandage, puts on a clean one, takes off the next bandage and puts on a clean one. And so the two rabbis say, Elijah, my master, why do you put on your bandages different than the rest of the lepers? And Elijah says, because I never know when I'll be summoned to bring the Messiah. How will you know? I will know when Israel summons me. We never know when the impossible is going to become possible. It can happen at a moment's notice. And that to me is the secret, or one of the secrets of the Jewish hope that never died. And so I really encourage us this July 4th weekend, as we think about our American identity, to also think about our connection and our dreams for Israel and how we can will those dreams to come true. And as Danny Gordis in a new book, and that's the next book I need to read, is that impossible will take a little longer. Shabbat Shalom.